You're watching Teng Tools Muscle Garage, the home of New Zealand's toughest muscle cars, hot rods and street machines. Muscle Garage is proudly brought to you by Teng Tools in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Niedercar. Kicking us off in this brand new season, the Collins, Lowdown and LS'd Chevy Nomad. And he heads up one of New Zealand's top rod shops, but for Magoo, hot rodding is no 9 to 5. But first up, thanks to the team from Maguire's, we're in the Waiarapa for Cruz Martinborough. That somewhat overused phrase, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, could well be a tagline for this, the 5th Cruz Martinborough, an event that winds its way around the wine country of the Waiarapa. Its 4 days are very intentionally laid back, a concept not lost on this lot. With multi-day monsters like Whangamata's Beach Hop ripe for comparison, Cruz Martinborough's MO is much more low-key, and that's definitely by design. Cap numbers in the region of 400, non-intrusive sponsorship, and with a program you can pick and choose from, Cruz Martinborough's charm is its knack of making what is still a fairly big event feel somewhat, well, small.
It's great. It's a really relaxed, comfortable drive, and just the people here are lovely, beautiful vineyard country. It's been lots of fun.
It'd have to be a pretty well a 10. It's really, really great. In the square, it's good because everybody's around. You've got all the watering holes around the place and meet a lot of people from all around the country, so yeah, really, really good.
Cruz Martinborough is effectively our local Wellington region multi-day event, probably the only one we have down here. It's really just a big catch-up with people, and the car's just a bit of a sideline, if you like.
Putting the Cruz in Cruz Martinborough are a series of convoys that take the show on the road to Lake Ferry, Masterton via Greytown and Carterton, and for those with a weighty right foot, the ever-popular strop-down Masterton's drag strip. Not your thing? Then there's plenty of time for show and shine with park-ups at Lake Ferry, Farrier's Bar in Masterton, and the big one, a Martinborough Main Square takeover on Saturday.
Ton of beautiful cars here, all been driven. Majority of them had a bit of a thrash down the 8th mile sprints, they call them, at the drag strip. Yeah, great fun. Yeah, a lot of fun. It's all about, cars loaded up with all your mates and having a bit of a fang in a nice, safe atmosphere. It's, really enjoyable.
But if you had to pick a theme for 2019's event, it would have to be Mopars. They were out in full force from old to new. Not that we were complaining.
It's a 1970 Plymouth GTX. It's running a 440 Super Commando, 727. It's a Mopar. Well, I've owned Ford, my race car's a Chevy, but the Mopar was something outside the box, but the colour was the thing that sold it. Now, I love green, and I used to have a lime green X1 Tirana, and that's it, radioactive Kermit.
While Dean's GTX looks very slick these days, it was a bit of a problem child.
Yes, a guy called Martin Sheffield from Paraparaumu brought it into the country, had it inspected in the States and, well, Canada, I think that's where he got it done, and told it was all good, brought it into the country, and it was bad. And I mean really bad. So he didn't want anything to do with it, he didn't want the grief, so he put it up for sale. I went and had a look at it, the colour, it was sold. Yeah, so that was it, And luckily I had good mates, Greg Parks, who was a good panel beater, a really good mate of mine, Chris Mercedes, and Chris let me use his hoist, and it was sitting on his hoist for 3.5 years to 4 years, and Greg came through and did the amazing panel beater job, so good that the guy that inspected it actually offered him a job.
With the body now shipshape and the car running strong, only a slightly overwhelmed 2-core radiator would slow Dean down on this trip. That said, it wasn't by much.
Oh, I loved it, yeah. Apart from the temperamental overheating problems I had with it, the old girl, but just let it cool down, fire it up again, and did the drags today. They're built to be driven, and that's what I do. And as you saw today with the drag racing, drive it hard. If it breaks, you fix it.
That statement doesn't get any closer to home than for Lyle and Lucy Stewart's Lola 2. Believe it or not, this glowing candy-coated 32 Coupe was near totaled as they prepared to leave for Cruz Martinborough just a few years back.
We had the accident the day before the event started. We actually came over and did the event in our camper van, which is it's just not quite the same. But yeah, it's been great having the car on the road, being able to do the event. Didn't end up in a ditch anywhere, so I'm quite pleased about that.
Not that they were wrapping the coupe in cotton wool, you'd have to say. The Reborn 32 is one heck of a car too, so much so that we'd be doing it a disservice to squeeze it in here. Make sure you tune in for the full feature in next week's episode. Daring to be different was Normaby's Dave Kinberg in this purple car?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know until they read the rego on the windscreen and yeah, you get some idea what it is. This is a 1939 Deco Rides Lincoln Zephyr delivery. I had in 2004, I had a brand new XR8 Ute, and we pulled that apart 5 years to the day after I bought it brand new, and all of the running gear and everything is in that. Wanted something different, and yeah, I think it is a bit different, so as I've been told.
While you're highly unlikely to spot another shaved and streamlined delivery like this one in the local car park, the original concept was perhaps even more wild. Designed to sit atop a front-wheel drive Caddy power plant, the sales pitch was a vehicle you could roll a bike into the back of. Sounds great, in theory, but for Dave, the switch to modern XR8 motivation wasn't the only work on.
Made, as far as I know, in Canada, and not very well made at all. When we got this body, it was terrible. So I sent it up to Robin Barnes at Coupe de Glace, and we spent another $17,000 getting the body how it looks now, you know, fixing it up and the things that they didn't get right. And we cut 90 mils off the bottom and lowered it all the way around the bottom to give it a bit better look, and yeah, and it ended up like it is now. So yeah, it was going to be a workshop hack, so it didn't quite work out that way. So no, come out a bit flash. So we've done about 35,000 Ks since it's been on the road, so yeah, it goes everywhere, dirty roads, rough roads, whatever. Doesn't matter, we use it, yeah.
You know how we mentioned the strong Mopar turnout? Well, while it's a stretch to call any of them common, this example might just be one of the rarest of them all.
Just always wanted a Woody, I don't know why. So for years I've been looking online for cars for sale, and found her about 4 years ago. She's a 1948 Plymouth Special Deluxe Woody wagon and a flathead 6 engine.
So what makes a Woody a Woody?
A car made of wood. Hardly any tin, she's just solid wood. She's got wood floor, the doors are wood, there's wood ceiling. She's a beautiful thing. American ash is the wood, and the colour just seems to be beautiful with the wood. She was originally red. She was a work truck for an iron ore mining company in Michigan for 10 years, and then got put in a barn, and 35 years later she got towed out. The owner, Bruce, second owner, stripped away the paint because the iron ore company had painted the wood brown, stripped away the paint, and there's the wood that we see today.
The Sinclairs were part of an Auckland contingent all the way down, especially for the event, although an unfortunate case of plain old common sense meant the 48 sat out the trip south.
She's good on the open road. I have towed her down here. She's still got drum brakes and no seatbelts, so it's a bit of a long trip for that. I use her at least twice a week. I'll take her out. She's good fun. I call her my happy car. She puts a smile not only on my face, but everybody that sees her. So she's great, great fun.
amazing results, even at full sight.
You're back with Teng Tools Muscle Garage, proudly brought to you by Teng Tools, in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Niedercar. Right, thanks to Niedercar, we're in the mighty Manawatu to track down Tash and Todd Collins' Retrotech 55 Nomad, the Chevy long roof crafted by Kendall and the team at Palmy's Cruise and Customs.
If you're satisfied, then it's mediocre. Everything can always get better. It's never good enough. It's never ever good enough. And that really depends on the customer as well. It's really good when a customer comes in and they say, I want this particular thing, and they don't want to waver from it. It makes the build really easy because the customer knows what they want. Tash is one of those people that knows exactly what she wants.
And for Tash and husband Todd, nothing less than Chevrolet's iconic 55 Nomad would do. It was about then when Kendall discovered just how rare this one-year model was.
So I rang him back and I said, you sure you want a 55 Nomad? You know, you can get a 56 or a 57 and a little bit cheaper and a little bit easier to find. No, 55 Nomad is what they wanted. So we found one, went through all the process, and that's how the build started. We got it checked out in the States like we do with all the cars that we bring in. We put one little floor patch in the driver's floor, and other than that, there was no rust in that car whatsoever. We couldn't have got a better car. We're very, very lucky.
But seems that wasn't by chance.
It was a really nice car, but somebody had got on and texture coated the whole underneath of the car. We're talking the firewall, the suspension arms, the chassis, the whole lot. And we actually had to send that up to Rotorua to get it dipped. It sat in their tank for 3 weeks just to get the stuff off of it.
With a great starting point now in even better shape, this Nomad build started to get a bit more serious. And by a bit, we mean quite a lot.
Let's change the colour, let's put some suspension in it, let's put an LS in it, let's go with the new interior, so on and so on. And it just grew and grew and grew to what you see now. When the car turned up, it was bright yellow. Had brown suede interior, so it was a very 80s style car. It had wood grain on the dash. The initial brief was, let's get it, let's paint it black and put a new interior and we'll drive on. As all builds do, they grow. Tash decided orange, then it was finding what shade of orange. So we sprayed out, I think it was probably 10 spray outs, and then Tash went to the paint shop and got, I think, another half a dozen, and she came up with the Lamborghini orange, which is, I think that's the best choice ever. You know, the colour makes this car completely. Tash, it was so funny, it was almost exciting when she came in. She'd come in and she'd see something new that's been done and she'd get all excited, and which made us excited.
It wasn't just those iconic 1955 lines that caught Tash's eye. The wagons that stood out had something else in common. They were all lacking their factory altitude. The Cruise and Customs crew advised airbag suspension would be the order of the day to keep things low but practical, also tackling installation of a 9-inch rear with triangulated 4-bars, while the braking department too was brought into the 21st century. The air ride setup is a clever piece of kit, performing 300 self-checks at the touch of a button and a RideTech cigarette lighter dongle linked to a cell phone for setting up preset heights. Up front, motivation now comes in the form of a Chevy LS.
Well, the benefits from going late model into the likes of an LS and 4L65 transmission, which is in this one, is the complete drivability. You can go out after 6 months and turn the key and start it and back out the driveway just like you do with your late model car. They sound the same, they're more economical, the horsepower is greater, they are the future.
And while it now drives like a car many years its junior thanks to that generous helping of modern mechanicals, The trick with a Nomad build was to keep it looking like a Nomad.
If somebody wants a 55 Nomad or a jail bar truck or whatever it is, they want that car because of what it is. You know, you can't diversify from that too much, else you don't have a 55 Nomad. You can try and improve it, but you know, you're not trying to make it into something swoopy or, you know, roof chopping it. You know, you'd never go and roof chop something like this or change the shape of the panels. It is a custom car, but you've got to retain the integrity of what the vehicle is.
And for Kendall and the Cruise and Customs team, while the Chev long roof build offered a great opportunity to show off their talents, it's much more than just bolting together a car.
The customer is the biggest part of the whole thing, as far as I'm concerned. Tasha and Todd were absolutely brilliant. They let us do what we wanted to do with the quality of things. Hopefully the car shows that. Seeing the smile on somebody's face that's the total reward, as far as I'm concerned.
Right, thanks to our mates at Mount Shop, it's Shed Raid time. This week, we sneak into Lloyd Magoo Wilson's.
Hot rodding has been part of my life for the majority of my life, and I remember when I very first got hooked simply reading a hot rod magazine and then saw a hot rod a couple of days later for the first time in my life, and I was hooked from day one, and it's just grown from that. So I think it's a drug. I don't think I can chuck it away.
Once the bug had bit, hot rodding would become far more than just a hobby for Mr. Lloyd Wilson. Magoo Street Rods needs little introduction. It's one of New Zealand's most successful hot rod shops. But before setting up shop in town, it was here, his home workshop, where Magoo would forge out a name for himself professionally. And when the business did move into its grander premises, he had a couple of ideas with how to best fill the vacant space, starting with giving this modern building a distinctly old look.
I would like to think I'm a collector and not a hoarder. I tend to get sets of things or go onto a certain tangent and then collect enough to be happy with. It's a collection of my personal tastes, but also my experiences, the memorabilia, the people that I've met, and just as I collect things, they just get shuffled up onto the wall or put on display. And one of my latest interests, for example, has been spark plug boxes, and what appeals to me for that is the huge number of different brands of spark plugs that there were through the years. I think I've got 140 or something like that. But it's the art, it's the whole Art Deco era of the 1930s that appeals to me. So I don't actually collect the spark plugs, I collect the spark plug boxes. How things were promoted, how things were packaged really appeals to me and my marketing background. I've got a real passion for hot rod history, both in America but also New Zealand hot rodding history. So there's archival stuff that I've got here. Some of it's on loan from other people. It's one of those things that just gets lost if nobody's looking after it. So that's part of my passion, is just to tell the story of hot rodding at a local level, at an international level, and then how that weaves into my history in hot rodding and what I've done, the people I've met, and so on.
Good thing he's got a bit of space, because some of these collectibles aren't all that small.
Each of the cars in this room has a story of its own in terms of how I found it and why I've got it. Or I'll also source cars for customers' projects, and sometimes they're here until we can fit them in the workshop, or other times they're bought on spec until we find a owner that's looking for that sort of project.
Yep, as Magoo said, they all have a story, and history doesn't get much cooler than with this FED.
Yeah, the Dragster's a genuine Mickey Thompson car, and we've had that authenticated by Dode Martin of Dragmaster Engineering, who built the car for Mickey in the early 1960s. What makes it special is it's one of two cars that Mickey had extended by Dode to run twin engine setups. And so I'm just seeking over a period of time to accumulate parts that are period accurate to rebuild the car, not with an intention of running competitively, but perhaps just on an exhibition display. But whatever, it's a pretty cool piece to have in your garage. One of the interesting things with this car is I've got a variety of motors in different cars. I've got a Hemi in my Roadster, a Flathead in my Coupe, a small block Ford in my wife's car, and a Buick in the little hot rod that I keep in the States. So to do something different with the Thompson car, it was appropriate to use a Pontiac motor because he had an alignment with Pontiac in this era in 1960s. The backstory to that is interesting because Pontiac wanted him to run the motor and he declined. But then they said, well, what about if we give you the motors for $1 each? So he pulled into his pocket, got $20 out, and a week later, 20 Pontiac engines were delivered to him.
Magoo's matte-finished and flathead-powered 32 three-window coupe is a well-known car in New Zealand, but he's made headlines internationally too, with a car stored stateside especially for his US adventures, a 1930 Roadster pickup which collected the coveted Good Guys Stroker McGurk Trophy at the 2008 West Coast Nationals. And the collection is about to get a whole lot more glossy, with long-term builds for both himself and wife Anne now on the home straight at work. It's a lifelong thing, this, and for Magoo, that means it's a family thing. It'd be a stretch to say that's entirely accidental.
I've got friends in the States that are in their 80s and 90s that are still hot rodding and still playing with cars, and I hope it'll last that long for me. I hope I see my kids and my grandkids carrying on the passion. There really is no cut-off, but I've been really lucky. I've made some great friends around the world, not just in New Zealand, through hot rodding. And you could take away the cars and those friendships would still be there, but the initial catalyst that brought us together was our common love of cars.
Want to win big? Prizes don't get much bigger than this one. A massive Teng Tools 417-piece toolkit, 7-drawer cabinet and 6-drawer top box, a complete Meguiar's car care pack and a $500 Mount Shop voucher. What do you need to do to be in to win? Simply head to themotorhood.com and hit the Teng Tools Muscle Garage link. Easy. Teng Tools Muscle Garage was proudly brought to you by Teng Tools. Get organised. Mount Shop, undercar specialists. Meguiar's, people who love cars love Meguiar's. And Need a Car, the easy way to research and buy cars online.